need help filling that out?
No.
I forgot my glasses, so.
Does it make a difference of which one?
Well, are you opposed or in favor?
Opposed.
Okay, so if you're opposed, see where this is red, it says
Okay.
opposed, then you'll write your name, and then make sure you
Okay.
mark which one it's for.
Gotcha. You good?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna take a seat then. I'm gonna sit over here. Where do they, they,
Okay, and I'm gonna go
they
use the
record it, so
restroom.
I'm gonna go over here. I can't see me. Okay.
name down?
Close down.
Your last name is I've got it written down in my phone because I don't know.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission for Monday, April 19th. We have a full house tonight and we have quite a lot on our agenda. So we're just going to move through our agenda one item at a time. So with that, we have established a quorum. And I would invite a motion to approve minutes for April 5th, 2021. So move with the seconds. Any opposed? Hearing none. Minutes are approved.
Who was our first and second?
First was James, second would be Bobby. Kelly, sorry.
Thank you.
I say Bobby because I want to play Bobby. Alright, we will have recognition of persons not on the agenda, which we have none, and we move into why we are here tonight. We have a public hearing and action, and the way that we're going to do this is we're going to move through each item one at a time. We will open the hearing and public hearing, for each specific one and close it. We will have discussion amongst the commission, and then we'll move through one item at a time. So for the first one, we have an action item discussion for a request by James Prather for the conditional use permit to erect a 50-foot off-premise sign to be located on lots 1 and 2. Block 2, replat Kmart Subdivision number 1. Mr. Chair.
Alright, thank you, Mr. Chair. This probably is one of the least complicated items that we have tonight. So James Prather represents the development which is occurring at City View, and I believe it was 2 years ago he came before you to ask for this same item, and it was granted both by the Planning and Zoning Commission and also the City Council. What he is asking for is a conditional use permit that would allow up to a 50-foot tall and 400 square foot off-premises sign that is at lots 1 and 2, block 2 of the replat of Kmart Subdivision number 1 on American Legion Boulevard. In your packets, you have an image of the sign in question. I will note that it appears that even though that he is asking for a maximum of 50 feet, that the illustration he has is only approximately 32 feet. So the 50 feet gives him a little bit more leeway if there's any other design considerations. Note though, I believe that the prior sign, and this is something that we can ask Mr. Prather as well, I believe it was at a maximum of 50 feet. So that's something that we can verify. This is a multi-tenant sign, meaning that the intention is instead of all of those tenants having their own freestanding signs and having a lot of signs, that we have one singular multi-tenant sign that is freestanding, that lists all of the different businesses that will be within that overall development. Our planning and zoning code allows for him to ask for this, and our comprehensive plan recognizes that signage is ancillary for most of our different types of commercial development. So the staff doesn't see any issue there also. So with that is all staff has, unless the applicant would like to add something as well.
I do. Good evening, James Prather, representing Todd McCurry, Gateway Plaza. Brock, are they looking at this one?
Yes, sir.
I don't know, I may have filled out the application wrong, but it's for an on-premise sign, not off. Because off-premise would require ITV, and this is an on-premise sign.
Awesome.
Okay.
Just contained within the 8 lots.
Yeah, that is an issue. Easier. Yeah.
So it's a lot easier on this
Yeah.
side too.
Best thing.
Okay, perfect. Anything else you can add?
No, I'm good.
is this gonna be
Oh,
visible
hold
from
on,
the freeway?
hold on. Yeah, we can't just sit out and talk, we have to sign up and we'll open up a hearing for everybody to have a conversation. Thank you. And with that, we will open up the public hearing. Anybody who does wanna have a conversation or question, about said item of discussion tonight, feel free to, please sign in, and then if not, we will move forward.
If you're uncommitted, there's a sign-in sheet for uncommitted if you just have a simple question. It'll be the one with the blue boxes on it there, that one.
We'll take this outside, there's much. Are you filling that out for this one? Or are you filling it out for later?
Whichever one, I think most of them are here.
Okay, perfect. Seeing no discussion by the public,
Let's just verify that there's here for this specific item.
okay. Okay, all right, with that, we will close the public hearing on this one. Commission, any discussion? Looks pretty straightforward to me. If we have no discussion from commission, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion, that we, recommend to the city council that the request by James Prather for conditional use permit to erect a 50-foot on-premise sign. Excuse me, to be located on lots 1 and 2, block 2, replat Kmart subdivision number 1. Recommend to the council that they pass.
Okay, I have a first by Nancy, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mark. We'll go around the room, so let's start with you.
Aye.
Aye. James?
Aye.
Travis?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Dee Dee?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving down to our next item on the list, we have a request by Leap Housing Solutions to annex and zone to R4 a parcel of land approximately 8.39 acres located at the east side of South 5th West Street, south of West 12th South Street, and east of Trucker Circle. Mr. R4?
Alright, Mr. Mayor, so this is a
I
request.
am not the mayor.
Someday.
No.
It's a thankless job. So, yes, Mr. Chair, I apologize. So this is a request, to annex and zone a piece of property which is located at South 5th West Street and south of West 12th Street and east of, Tucker Circle. The annexation is asking for a zoning designation of R4 at this time. So note that at this time, the applicant is not asking for any other development opportunities outside of what is outright permitted for the R4 district. So right now, with this recommendation, it wouldn't include any sort of multi-family project right now. It wouldn't include anything pre-planned. They could just do a general single-family subdivision. That's outright permitted. But anything that's higher density, it will need more hearings. So right now, it's just asking to be annexed into the city and to have that R4 zoning designation. Per our comprehensive plan, the future land use map does explain, and it's in your packet, that all of the surrounding area is residential in nature. I think a more important map to look at would be our current zoning map. And you'll see that we have a relatively somewhat equal mix of R4 and also R3 zoning districts. Being that this property takes access off of South Lake, which is a collector roadway, generally you want your higher density housing types here than there just because there's higher flows of traffic, and generally higher density housing types have greater setbacks away from the roadway. So therefore, based upon the comprehensive plan and also our current zoning ordinance, staff doesn't find any issue with this, and we would recommend the annexation to the R4 zone designation. Staff recognizes also that we have the applicant here, who wanted to just take a moment to introduce himself and to maybe speak about his intent for the future of this property.
Perfect. Please.
Good evening, commissioners. You get a
Yep,
presentation?
I have it.
Just have a few comments to share a little bit about just a little bit of the background of our application and a little bit just about our organization, the work that we're doing. So maybe I'll start just by introducing myself. My name is Bart Cochran. I'm the CEO of Leap Housing Solutions. And then with me, we have Mary Overstreet. She's our design and asset manager. And then Lori Benford, our development coordinator, with us as well. And I'm going to hand it off in just a minute to Mary to just talk a little bit about the application. But just a little bit about Leap. Leap was formed in 2008. We're a non-profit, affordable housing non-profit provider. Our geographic area is throughout the state of Idaho, but primarily we target sort of the Treasure Valley areas of sort of focus. We are focused on providing housing solutions for the audience, what we call around median income. So a lot of times you hear terms like affordable housing or low-income housing, moderate priced housing. What we're targeting is around what we consider median home prices or median income. In Mountain Home, that's approximately $49,000 is considered the median household income. So just so you have a kind of a data point there. We were invited in early 2020 in March, invited to come and explore the idea of attempting to help with what was considered a great housing need in the city of Mountain Home. We met with the mayor and what was then the economic development officer, Courtney Lewis, to consider the possibility of building housing in the community. We have explored a variety of sites, including one city-owned property. Most of the challenges have been around Roth and the floodplain. So those have been the two biggest difficulties in identifying a site that would work. So it took us about a year, and we've been able to identify a site that we think is a good fit. There are some particular challenges in developing specifically affordable housing, or what we call moderately priced housing in the community. For HUD, Mountain Home is designated as a DDA, or a difficult to develop area. And what that is a definition that's based on high land, construction, and utility costs in comparison to the area median income. So it's a formula that HUD designates census tracts based off of. Like I said earlier, median household income, $49,000 for Mountain Home. And there are some other particular challenges. There's virtually no rental vacancy, as you all probably are well aware of, and you have rapidly increasing prices of homeownership housing. Just to give you a couple of examples, do a quick search on Zillow right now, and you look for a rental in Mountain Home, this is what you get, 0. There are no houses available for rent. If you do another search for, here's some data, real estate data, the median home price in Mountain Home is up 22% this month. Those are year-over-year numbers. So median home price is up 22% since March of last year, 2020. And then the inventory is down 73%. So it's a relatively small market, so this data is spread over time, but this is year-over-year numbers. Inventory is down by 73%. And then if you do a quick search just to look at home ownership and you say, I'd like to buy a house in Mountain Home, this is what you find. Most homes are north of $400,000. And as you can imagine, at a median household income of $49,000, it's pretty tough to afford a $400,000 home. So these are some of the particular challenges that we're attempting to work through to see if we can be able to provide some median price housing for the community. So just a quick note on just the path forward. We have at this point experienced an incredible amount of support, and we're super thankful for our interactions with the city and with Elmore County as well, in helping us work through a minor land division to be able to identify the parcel to be able to pull in through annexation and the rezone that we're considering tonight. So we're super thankful for that. We think LEAP is uniquely positioned because we're a mission-based organization. Our goal is to solve housing challenges in communities across the state. We think we're uniquely positioned to support the city's efforts to solve some of these affordable housing challenges here. And so with your continued support, we would like to continue to work with the city to advance an opportunity to create some moderately priced housing. And with that, I just want to pass it off to Mary, who will just speak just a little bit about our application.
Okay, please.
And then, of course, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Chairman and council members, my name is Mary Overstreet, and I'm also with LEAP Housing Solutions. We chose this site because of its wonderful attributes. It's a great flat piece of land, and its location to and proximity to the services within Mountain Home is really great. We have great access points off of South Fifth, and we think that it would just be a great project for this area because of its varied housing offerings. There's duplexes, single family homes, and there's already some multi-family homes in the area adjacent. So we are just looking at the opportunity to provide affordable workforce housing, that gap between what is available and what is currently on the market. And we, it is our mission as our organization to provide dignified housing, and so that is our objective and our goal. We are targeting those homes with moderate incomes to provide workforce housing with the potential. We have not yet developed the concept, the overall concept of what types of units, how many units, and so we are still in the design development of that part of it. And so we are looking at all of our options, but we strive for high quality, energy efficient construction. Again, the location is great, access to schools, the hospital, shopping, and transportation. We also are looking closely at creating the connectivity between the adjacent neighborhoods and tying in our project to the existing bike paths that are on either side of this project. That's it. Anyway, we look forward to the opportunity of working with you and working through our annexation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'd like to open it up to a public hearing. Anybody like to come to the audience and speak to this item? Check outside, if you're nobody outside.
I'm gonna double check for LEAP, but I think these gentlemen wanted to speak, and he's already signed
I think
in.
I answered most of my questions. I was going to stand up. I live over on Painter Street. I just had. Could you? Oh, sure.
Can you state your name and address for the record?
Jonathan Owen, 760 Southwest Painter Street here in Mountain Home. I just wanted to come and see. Had questions of what they were planning on doing. Design was going to be multifamily, single family. They did studies of increased traffic, increased teachers over at West Elementary. I have 2 daughters that can go there or going there. I don't know if that's been addressed or they're thinking about all those other, second and third order effects rather than just cramming in more houses and what they can do to water supply and all the utilities and everything. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, how's it going? My name's Hayden Dunn. I live at 1685 Peregrine. I'm not really close to that area. I just had some questions for the, I guess the designers and builders. I know, I couldn't help but notice on your vehicle that it says that it's, what was it? Refugees welcome. Is that part of the plan to bring in refugees out of the area into those homes, or is it specifically for people living in the area to live into those units? No, sorry.
And address, and so all questions will come here, and then
Okay.
we'll give the opportunity after to come back and answer any questions.
Well, that was the question. What are the plans for the unit? Is it going to be open for people who live in the area, or are you planning on bringing in refugees? As is, I mean, that's their LEAP housing solutions. That's part of their motto, so to speak.
Chairman,
That's the only question that I had.
could we get Mr. Hayden to sign in, please? Are you uncommitted on?
I'm uncommitted.
Thank you.
I'll just take this with me for the moment. If anyone else wants to speak, I know there's a couple people outside.
There were no further outside.
No further outside? Okay. Is anybody else in here? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public hearing. I'd like to go ahead and invite up the applicant again. Go ahead and come on forward. The two questions that were proposed were, is it open to people, or is it refugees and refugees welcome?
Sure. I'd be happy to answer that. No, it's not intended for like refugee housing. That's so just to be clear about that. The housing would be open to everybody. We're obligated to follow federal Fair Housing Act laws, so we can't preference or prejudice against folks who would apply for financing, or for housing. The only restriction we may have on this type of housing is oftentimes, because of federal funding, we will require a certain income or below. So a person would have to verify that they make, oftentimes it's 80% of area median income or below.
Thank you. Commission, any questions?
I just have a question. One question, Mr. Chairman, is regarding the expected rents. I know it says 80% of AMI or less. What is that considered to be at this time? Do you know?
I don't. It would depend upon the size of the unit, of course. But just a ballpark. I think we ran the numbers this last week. They were less. It was less than a. It probably ranged between 700 and 900. I think is about approximately. Just kind of a range. The lower end of it would be. So we have the pricing is structured based on the AMI. So if it's at 60% of area median income or 80. So the rent is, the calculation is backing into attempting to make the housing costs equivalent to 30% of the gross income of the household. So that's what we're working backwards for. So somebody's not housing.
Does that include utilities, or is that just housing?
Those numbers that I quoted were including utilities.
Okay.
Yep.
Commission, just as a reminder, this is only a decision to annex
Right.
and zone to R4. This is not a conversation about what might be going in, just so you're aware. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, question,
Sir.
or maybe more of a clarification based on what you just said, and one of the questions, the first question from the citizen, this is an annexation meeting, right? Brock explained that we're not, the applicant would have to come back to another meeting for building purposes, right? So as far as traffic studies and those kind of things, what was asked, that would happen then, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Any other discussion on the annexing and the rezoning? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to send to the City Council to approve an annex zone 1 parcel, which is approximately 8.39 acres located east side of Southwest Street, south of West 12, and the east side of Checker Circle, as requested by the
First by James, a second.
Second.
Second by Dee Dee. Go around the room. Nancy? Dee Dee?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Travis? James? Motion passed. All right, down to everybody's here.
We'll free up some seats.
We'll get some more space here.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
move into this action item, I do want, because there's a lot of people who want to voice their concerns, they want to voice questions, and we want to hear them to the best of our abilities. With that being said, we are going to put a 3-minute time limit up here. If you hear a question or a comment that is said, that is shared by somebody else, please don't feel like you have to come and repeat yourself. We hear you. The questions that are going to be asked, we will be writing down. And after Mr. Cherry and the developer have the conversation of what everything looks like, we will open up that action for the discussion from the public. And you can feel free to come ask questions, voice your concerns. We will close the public hearing. And then all questions that are brought to us, we will then share as a commission to the developer and to Mr. Cherry. Okay? Just so everybody is on the same page. So with that being said, our next item is a request by the Viper Investments to annex and zone R3 PUD 3 parcels of land. Parcels are located south of 94, north of East 17th North, west of North 10th East, and east of North 6th East Street. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to clarify for the Planning and Zoning Commission that the annexation and the PUD are very interconnected. Unfortunately, with how this is set up, you can't annex it to the PUD, which they are asking to be annexed, if the PUD isn't something that's favorable for you. So I just want you to know that they're interconnected. Unlike other items, just the one we had, where it was just a simple annexation to a basic zoning district, that this one's different, and they kind of play in line. So with this one, you're not only looking at the annexation, but you're also looking at the proposed types of uses and everything else that is coming with it. So that's what makes this item very different than the one just prior. So what is being looked at is approximately 47.49 acres, which is south of I-84, north of East 17th North, west of North 10th East, and east of North 6th East Street. A little history about the property. It's been vacant from what staff believes is decades from the different sort of just investigations we've been able to do. We think historically it was probably used for ag purposes. What is being proposed by the developer is a housing development which is made out of entirely single-family detached homes. So nothing will be attached. There won't be any attached row homes. There won't be any duplexes, anything of that sort. For a total of 238 new homes. What makes this one extremely unique is they are seeking to provide a mix of lot sizes. So you will have lot sizes anywhere from 3,400 square feet to 16,000 square feet. With the average lot size being 5,000 square feet. The planned unit development ordinance has specific items, and it's in your staff report of really what we're looking at. But the purpose of a planned unit development is to foster and promote a variety of appropriate land use combinations in a pre-planned development pattern. It is to encourage developers to use a creative approach in land development. It is to retain and also conserve natural land and also topographic features. It is to promote greater land use of streetscape and also pedestrian-oriented aesthetics. It is to promote the creation and efficient use of open spaces. It is to create flexibility and variety in the location of improvements on lots, and also provide flexibility in development standards to facilitate creative land development concepts. I think it's fair to say, and I think most of the audience here would agree, that this is a horse of a different color. It's something that Mountain Home hasn't seen before. What I would say is that is the intent of the planned unit development, is to bring forth different housing options, which we believe will add value for the various needs that we have. Staff has reviewed the purpose of the planned unit development and what has been submitted by the applicant, and we believe that what they do offer certainly is creative. We believe that it does help conserve a lot of green space, which is what makes Mountain Home special. Generally, best practice for land use development is you want to get dense whenever you can get dense. and we want to have all of these fields that surround the home stay that way for as long as possible. As we slowly get dense from the urban, from just the center, and we slowly move out, so we retain all of that green space, pasture area, farmland, what have you. If you look to the comprehensive plan, our comprehensive plan is very specific when it comes to housing. This was a plan that was just adopted last year, and it has it has 5 different top priorities, and housing was on there. I believe it was number 2 or number 3. But it speaks to housing and how it's integral in order to have a very successful economic community. As all of us know, home ownership is probably one of the best ways to build wealth over time. Sometimes it doesn't go our way, just like 2008. But I believe all of Idaho, and in particular Mountain Home, over the past couple of years have seen drastic appreciation of home values, which come with good and bad things. None of us like paying property taxes, but then being able to sell your home if you wish and having something lined up for at top dollar is very awesome as well. It also speaks about providing housing options for all of our citizens. The prior presentation with LEAP, they spoke about the minimum household income in Mountain Home. That's approximately $50,000. When LEAP came to the city and they asked us, well, what do you want to have? We said we want housing for our people. We love that people are coming to Mountain Home to retire. We love that they're coming here to just have a better living experience, and a lot of momentum, community voicing. But it was very important to us that we were able to provide housing for people here, because unfortunately right now our biggest and most valuable export are our children. And right now, if you're a first-time home buyer entering the market, it's extremely intimidating. So we wanted to, as much as we could, because there's so many different components that dictate the housing market, we wanted to make sure that at least we were doing something to lessen that burden, to get people into some sort of home so that they can start building that value and become productive citizens and happy citizens, certainly the types of ones that we would like to see here in Mountain Home. Further, it says that the approval of a PUD shall be based on the following standards: that the proposed uses shall not be detrimental to any surrounding uses, nor shall they be detrimental to the health, safety, and also general welfare of the public. With what has been proposed, there's been multiple studies. It's been reviewed by multiple staff members, from our public works director, from our fire chief, from our fire marshal, to ensure it's safe. A transportation impact study has been certainly conducted, and the findings of that study, which is stamped by certified transportation engineers, states that the current infrastructure that we have is efficient enough for what is being proposed. It says that any variation from the underlying zoning district development requirements must be warranted by the design and amenities incorporated in the conceptual development plan. What is being sought after here, let me turn off that guy so we can get the screen of the actual development. And then we'll zoom in. So the following development is in extreme proximity to our legacy park. One thing that Mountain Home does well, probably the best throughout the state, is how much parkland we have per capita, per resident. So staff was really looking at, well, we have a ton of parks, but how can we look at adding more value to the parks we do have, and how can we provide more accessibility? And luckily we have that wonderful pathway that a lot of people use. And what has been proposed by the applicant is that they will construct a 10-foot asphalt pathway right over here. I believe this roadway, I know people live over here, is
Street.
Which street?
10th.
10th. That's 10th. Right there, which will allow them to easily access the also Greystone Park, which is on an older subdivision. We are hoping to add more value there. We're looking at adding benches, we're also looking at adding some sort of pathway connection straight to that cul-de-sac. So all those people there can assess that pathway. Pathways are great, people can exercise on them, but they also take them to great amenities such as Legacy Park, which will be more easily accessible, especially for families, children, and also our, and also a perhaps more, a more wise segment of our population, where they have a pathway that is just for them. With that, staff has deemed that this meets the standards that is set within our zoning ordinance. We believe that it satisfies the mission of our comprehensive plan. And with that, I would give the rest of my time to the applicant to further speak upon the project. Please.
Hi Commissioners, thanks for having me tonight. My name is Jane Suggs, I'm with Jim State Planning, 9839 Cable Car Street in Boise, and I'm here representing Trilogy Development, the developers of this piece of property, and the Thunderbolt Landing subdivision. So, if you don't mind, I've got a few things to talk about, so I might sit down if that's okay. Thank you. So I'm gonna ask Mr. Cherry to pull up a couple of things for me that I had sent him previously, and one is just a vicinity map. I think he did a really good overview of the technical things, which is meeting comprehensive plan and meeting the PUD ordinance, so that we know that we're doing everything that your code requires us to do. But I want to show you a few things. So this is a vicinity map showing you the 3 parcels. You can see I-84 to the north, east, and they were surrounded by subdivisions. Let's look at the area map. There's another map with an aerial of the area map. There we go. And so that gives you a little bit of idea about being close to the park and the pathways. And then just north of us, up along the highway, is the Greystone Park that he was talking about some improvements for. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. As you can tell from those 2 drawings, this property is actually an enclave. This is something we call it when you're surrounded by the city. So it's interesting that it's still in the county but surrounded by the city. Our plan actually provides much needed housing. We've just heard a lot about needing housing from the elite charities. I did ask a real estate associate today to tell me how many houses were on the market today. 9 houses are on the market today. Many of those are in the 400 plus range. I think there's one older home that is at about 275. So there is a need for housing of all, I'd say for all income levels here. I think, and I think the population right now, as I was checking, is about 15,000 in the mountain homes. So if you have 3 to 4 people in a home, that's not enough housing, that's not enough housing stock right now in your community for the people, as Brock said, that want to move here. Let's take a look at that landscape rendering again. It's actually, we can talk a little bit about that. To recap, we are planning on 238 new single-family detached homes on 47.49 acres. That's just under 6 dwelling units per acre. And we do have some larger lots. So the landscape rendering, it should be, actually it's number 3 in the list of things that I sent you. Is that right? Nope. The number 3, landscape rendering. Let's see. Look at the top. Nope. There we go. Well, there you go. So, actually looking at this, of course, to the left is north. So just to get it on the page, we had to do it this way from our flat pages. So yes, 10th Street actually runs north-south, and it's on the north part of, on the top of this page. We do have some larger lots that are adjacent to the existing larger lots that are on our west side.
we also have some 7,000 to 8,000 square foot lots along the south side. They're similar to Bel Air number 1. We have our standard 5,000 and 6,000 square foot lots in the interior, and some that are along 10th. And in the interior, we also have some 3,400 square foot lots. Those are the smaller lots. They're 36 feet wide. Some of them are 36 by 95. Those would be they are detached. They are single family homes. They do have a 2-car garage. And the reason for our PUD is actually, well, and there's a good example of the 36-foot frontage houses. So there's a 2-car garage and a doorway, and almost always, I would say always, they're 2-story homes, just to give us the square footage for livable 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes. Those are the smaller homes on the property. Again, single family, individual for sale, not rental. It doesn't mean you can't buy one and rent it, but there's no process or no organization to purchase these and rent them. It's just an individual for sale. So, and those are the ones, I did try really hard to get an understanding of what those price ranges might be, and I hate to say that we're probably not in the affordable housing market right here, with the cost of land and the cost of utilities and the cost of, and rock, as we know, that you can go out there and see the rock. I would say these maybes could be 300,000, which is still pretty high, but we don't know what the market's gonna do, and this is in one of our later phases. So we will start in the south part of the site and move north, and those will be in our later phases, some of the smaller homes. I could not get a commitment for that, and this is why. This time last year versus, today versus this time last year, lumber on a single family house has gone up $24,000. I've actually heard up to 30, but 24 is what I'm getting from CDH homes. And so it's hard for them to actually say, oh, this is what our price point will be. This is not affordable housing, but it's also not going to be your most expensive houses. Right now, CDH is building some homes on the south part of town. Those are some that are on the market. They're over $400,000, closing in on 5, but they're on 8,000 square foot lots. So they're on bigger lots. These are a little bit smaller lots, so we think we can get the price down to be something. And really, yeah, let's go look at some of those other houses too. You've got pictures of, these are the 2-car garages. These will be on a 50-foot or larger wide lot. So you can see they can be 1-story and 2-story. And then we have some houses, these are 3-car garage homes, and they typically take 60-foot wide lots. So the houses would be 50. We're setting up with our PUD 5-foot side yard setbacks, 20 feet on the front, so there's plenty of room to park in front of the garages as well, and 15-foot backyard setbacks, which is standard. So we've gone through those. I just want to remind everyone that we are meeting the comprehensive plan requirement for residential use in that location. We are adjacent to R2 and R3 properties, so we are matching those with our PUD. And we meet the findings as Brock went through for the PUD. I included in my list a copy of the functional street map that's for Mountain Home in one of the on the list. Functional street classification map.
Have the TIS executive summary.
No, go up. There's there, functional classification map, up one more, there. That. So that is the map that is used to determine which streets are local streets, collector streets, and arterial streets. And the only reason I'm showing you this is to show that on either side of us, on 10th and 6th, are collector streets. So they're expected to carry a little more traffic than your local street. In many jurisdictions, anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 cars a day. And also on the south side of us is also on East 15th North is also a collector street. So we're tying in on east and west to those collector streets. So we expect those streets, and that's why we do have, in your package, you probably saw a traffic impact study. There is on page 4 and 5 an executive summary, and you'll see that right now, those streets all operate at A and B levels of service, and we're really not changing that at all. So that is about as good as you can get, A and B levels of service. And we don't see at this point, and haven't heard from the city, that there will be any need for mitigation. So, again, we will be completing 10th, to make sure that we have the pathways and all the things that are required there. Again, the landscape rendering, and we might go back to that. One of the things, there you go, one of the things that we need to recognize about this particular property is it doesn't have any water rights. And so a couple of things were informing our plan, and that was not creating huge green, lush, open spaces in the property, because it's so expensive to maintain that with city water, so to maintain the green grass. And we are adjacent to the Greystone Park, which we've agreed to improve, because right now it's just a lot. And we're very accessible to the Victory Park. So we have really great opportunities to utilize the parks and participate in whatever needs to be done, like for Greystone, to get that improved. But we're trying not to put in a whole lot of big green open space. We do have a kind of a central area. You'll see where the trees are there. We have some trees, and we have a couple of picnic shelters there for a kind of a gathering place. And in our design, we tried to make sure that we had access north and south that would connect to that open space, and east and west. So you'll almost see that, yeah, he's pointing out that north and south pathways that take you through that space. And also along the street here, we've actually put in some end caps so we can plant some trees and actually have pathways there too that feel very comfortable as you're walking along the street. And then we have the east-west connections too that make sure you can get from neighborhood to neighborhood. And then when we talked to the Postal Service, they were very appreciative of the fact that you could put mailboxes, the cluster boxes, in close to those pathways, and people didn't have to walk all the way around the street to get to them. They could walk through the pathways. So that connectivity is really something that I think we excelled in. Just making sure that there's way to get from one neighborhood to another without having to go around too many blocks. One of the things I was just gonna point out, a few more things, and of course I'm gonna answer any questions, and there are a lot of people here. I did attend the Mountain Home Community Housing Summit that was back in November. The folks from the Air Force were there talking about their needs. There are hundreds of Air Force families living in Boise and other places because there's not enough housing. One of the things that we do want to make sure of, if it's a fairly transient, I won't say completely transient like they're there and gone, but it is a fairly transient population, and we want to make sure that we have housing that uses low water use. We'll be encouraging that through our CCNRs, that they use low water use planning so you don't end up with just dead grass. You know, we don't want to create these big grassy oases. How do you say that? Oases? And then find out nobody wants to spend the money to water, or they leave before they pay that fee to the HOA. So we are taking a lot of stuff into account. The rock, the lack of water, the type of housing, and really the PUD is a really great opportunity to mix up the housing. So if you have a large family and you want the large house, you can do that. But then your kid goes off and comes back and says, I want to live in the neighborhood because I love that neighborhood, smaller home. Or maybe one of the standard 50-foot wide lots, you know, that you see all over Boise, Meridian. I've got some projects in Star and Middleton that are exactly kind of the same size lots. These are the standard 50-foot wide lots. The Air Force did say they wanted to see more multifamily, but we don't think that this is the place for that. We think that there are other places, maybe closer to the base, where there might be the need for more rental multifamily, meaning apartments or fourplexes or something for rent. We think that this area is dominated by single-family residential, and we think that that's the best thing to do. We just wanted to mix it up and not make 40+ acres of just the same thing. We have a pretty gridded pattern, which is kind of more a throwback a little bit to the same pattern that you see in the surrounding neighborhoods. There are a lot of people here to talk. If we get too late and we need to take all that in and let me answer questions. If you aren't comfortable making that decision, I understand that maybe you might want to think about this, since there's so many people here and you'll be getting a lot of possibly new information. So if we need to defer or continue for a couple of weeks, that is satisfactory. I've talked to the developer to find out what are some things we can do, and he said, well, we want everybody to be comfortable, we want the community to be comfortable and understand what we're doing, we want you to be comfortable. You will be recommending approval, well, recommending, we hope, approval, but you'll recommend to the city council, and they will be the final decision on this. And remembering too, this is just the preliminary plat. The construction documents for every phase have to be submitted to the city. Final plats have to be approved by the city. So one of the things, we have to submit those final plats for recording, and all of that has to be coordinated with the construction drawings and for each phase. So there will still be a lot of checks and balances. We'll never go over the number of lots that you approve tonight or whenever. We will have that same configuration. So the only thing I can imagine is, the only time I really see a big change is we will lose lots because of stormwater management. Because of the rock, we might have to do surface ponds, and you've seen those in lots of subdivisions. We can't do necessarily the infiltration underground because of the rock, but you'll see a couple of those locations where we have surface ponds, and sometimes we'll find the need for another one, and we will lose a buildable lot so that we can put those in. And that will all be approved by Public Works. So if you have some questions right now, I'd be happy to answer them.
We'll hold off on questions for us. We'll
Okay.
go right up to the public first. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we will open it up to the public hearing. Just as a reminder, there is a 3-minute max, and if you do hear yourself or hear a question repeated that you might already have, please do not feel like you need to come up and repeat yourself. So with that, I'd like to open up to a public hearing. Who wants to be the first one?
I will.
Okay, Mitch, go ahead.
I want to get in that. All right, I don't know if everybody knows me, but my name's Mitch Eguska, E-G-U-S-Q-U-A-Z-A. I am an attorney here in town. I live in the neighborhood. Okay. I sent a letter off. I don't know who on the board got that or not, but hopefully you guys did. That letter was sent out before I knew anything about this project. I mean, I just found out that day, and so it was a little concerning. So I was just trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Somebody did send me the traffic impact study. If you look at that, everything's coming out of the subdivision. It's going right into Fifth. Fifth goes into Union. Union goes into McMurtry and on out that way. And so I've looked at this impact study in regard to what was said, and what I don't see in that, and I think with this, what we need to find out initially is what is the traffic flow and load on these particular pieces of roadway that we're talking about that are going to be impacted. We know that everything coming out of that, there's 238 units, and I assume there's some sort of map that we can figure out how many cars that's going to be, how many people is going to be living in that. And everybody that's headed west is going to come right out of there, past Rich Sykes' house, right in front of my house, hit Union. If you go out there, you need to look at that corner because it's not regulated. It's going to go down past the park, and then it's going to hit McMurtry and Canyon Creek. McMurtry and Canyon Creek is already a mess. Our residents already a mess because everybody north of the walking path, everybody west, and even most of the people west above the freeway all take that Canyon Creek, McMurtry, all the way to Walmart or to wherever they're going. And so when they do this study, and I'm looking at that, I don't know where the level is where we're at, and I think that's very important. That's a question that each one of you need to ask as developers. How much is going by these houses already? 6th and 10th, they say, well, it's not going to be impacted. Well, it's certainly going to be impacted. We just don't know how much else is going to be impacted. I thought I'd seen someplace in there, and I'm not a person that can engineer and figure out what that study exactly says, but it looks to me like they're talking about 2,000 to 3,000 cars per day going through there, and then there's peak times on top of that, and so everybody that's coming in and out of that, and it looks like the basis was, well, we haven't had a whole lot of accidents here, so we don't need any traffic control devices. And I'm not suggesting traffic control devices are going to assist the overload of this road structure, but when you start developing or trying to develop 238 lots and you want to reduce it to 3,400 square feet, at least some of those, it doesn't make sense. First of all, it's an R3, and so you as a board have to make an informed and sound decision as to why would you go away from an R3 to 6,500 or 6,000, you guys know that better than I do, minimum lot size. Why would we do a 50% construction or footprint on these little tiny lots, so that we're talking about a 1,500 square foot, maybe single floor, maybe you get it up on second floor, but the problem with that is you gotta still a garage, you indicated the garage, and then the kicker on the thing is, and I am a litigator, so I do get a tendency to get in people's face, you know, but the kicker is that they sit up there and say, hey, we wanna do something for this Air Force people. What Air Force kid out there gonna be able to afford a $500,000 home? And so, let's look at it for what it is. This is a nice neighborhood. This is an important decision that you guys are gonna be making here. This decision is gonna make a significant impact in this community for a long, long time. And so we better do it right. So why are we reducing it? You know, I get a kick out of it. I read someplace that they're doing, well, we're gonna have smaller roads.
Minutes is up. I apologize. I gotta respect the time. But appreciate your comments and your question.
Where does the 3 minutes come from? Just to,
We have a lot of people to get through.
so the board decided that? Alright.
I could yield my 3 minutes, Tom.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Good job.
You're covering everything that I've got.
Well, it's a little disturbing, and you know, this is an important issue, you know, for all of us. And so, I think where we're at on this thing, when we're starting to talk about this developer coming in and said, we're gonna save the city money, but we're gonna reduce the size of the road, which is just since how much money are they talking about? You know, she can answer that. What are we talking about? We're gonna do 3 feet here, 5 feet here, we're gonna narrow everything up, we're gonna save the money on, potable water, may or may not, I don't know. But then we get to the other things that I think is important for us to look at. What about our hospital, infrastructure, and that sort of stuff? How many beds do we have here? How many people are we gonna have? You know, what emergencies can we expect with another 500, 700 people coming into this community? I don't know. These are the important questions that need to be answered. I'm not one of those guys that say, hey, I have my house, and I do, and it's within stone throw of this place. I'm one of these people who say, hey, everybody should get the entitlement. They should have their opportunity. I think it's a great idea to a certain extent if we do it right. And that's where I'm coming from. Let's do it right. Let's not rush to judgment. Let's not say, well, we need this housing, so let's throw up, you know, why don't we throw up a bunch of tents, for example? You know, if that's what we really want. We don't want that. We want nice, suitable housing that's affordable to everybody. Right now, the housing market is horrible for anybody, you know, to come into this market. Yes, you know, I know that there's 400,000 plus houses out there, 1,800 square feet. How is that gonna benefit my kids when they come in after high school or college or have their first job? They're not gonna come in and build that. So we might as well do it right, build a nice neighborhood, continue with that, keep the market values up, and so that at the end of the day, we have a project that we all can live with and that we're all happy with. And I would really stress the importance of looking at beyond 6th and 10th when it comes to the traffic load. There's a lot of people out there that have kids on these roads, you know, and it's going to be just more than 6 and 10. I appreciate it's a landlocked parcel. Yes, 6 and 10 is gonna add to it, but they go someplace after that, and they're gonna go, everybody heading west is gonna go down 5th, Union, McMurtry, and on, you know. And so I think it's very important at that point in time, you look at this as a whole. They should answer that question. How much is going on now? What can we expect in the future? Then I'll concede my 3 minutes.
Appreciate your comments and questions.
Afternoon, Charles Fairclough. I do live right on North 5th, and it concerns me of what's going on. I looked through the city ordinances, and the smallest zoning designation currently within the ordinance is R4 with a minimum of 5,000 square foot. The area in question has an R3 zoning designation with a standard size of 6,500, and the developer is proposing a minimum lot size of 3,420. The developer is also requesting a no minimum square footage on the homes being built on these lots. Unacceptable. I think Mr. Cherry talked about high density areas requiring a further setback, but yet we're letting these folks bring our setback to only 20 feet. You know, we're not providing, as you're aware, we live out west here, we got RVs, we got boats here. There's gonna be no parking for none of this. A truck is 17 foot, the sidewalk is 4 foot, there's 21 foot, and we're only given a 20-foot setback for the homes. I don't know how that's gonna help our folks. So like Mitch said, there's not an airman out on the base that's gonna afford a $300,000 home in this area. We already talked about the traffic, I won't discuss that anymore. In regards to the proposal to sit this community, the developer states the lack of irrigation water is one of the reasons we proposed buildable lots that are smaller than the code requires. It seems to me that those occupants of those 238 homes will use far more water than what it takes us to water lawns that are 6,500 square foot, with the home taking up 50% of that. While I understand that Mountain Home currently has a housing shortage, this isn't the way to fix the shortage by requesting an exemption to lot sizes and square footage of homes being built in the north end. Why should the current residents of Mountain Home, and more specific, those that live on the north end, accept a variance to the R3 zoning just so Corey Barton Homes or any other developer can maximize profits by squeezing in as many homes possible into an area? None of the executives with CBH live in the Mountain Home area. When they're done building, they will leave and never look back. Last but not least, Mitch mentioned our hospitals. What about our schools? Are our schools ready to accommodate the increases of all these families coming in? Any questions? That's all I have.
Thank you. Did you leave something else?
I lost my mask.
Sit up there, Mitch. Don't get a cramp.
I had my shots, don't worry. I'm not gonna read these.
Hi, I'm Karen Riley. I'm here directly opposite the field that this proposed subdivision that we're talking about. I have, traffic is certainly a big concern for me. My husband's disabled in a wheelchair. As it is now, that whole end of town, like that whole end of our street is just a speedway. And we have asked and asked and asked to have the police, like, a presence over the years to help us slow all of that down. That hasn't happened. We have sidewalks that I can't access with my husband's wheelchair because there is no disability ramp as you come to each intersection. So you have to get off at the nearest driveway and then get on, once you pass the intersection, get back onto the footpath in order, sorry, sidewalk, it's the Australian in me, in order for him to travel safely in his chair, for us to be able to go out in the community. How is that going to change with the addition of 400 or 500 extra cars whipping around? And I understand that some of them will go down McMurtry, but I can tell you right now, I go down 10th to American Legion. The reason that I do that is it's a lot quicker for me to get on the interstate. I don't have to slow down at all of the stop signs on all of the intersections. I've just got a couple to do. I go straight by the school, straight by the library, turn left, access the interstate. And that's what's going to happen, is that people are going to take the quickest, easiest route in order to get onto the interstate. I asked when I had called and when the sign had first been posted, I called and asked about whether or not an on-ramp was proposed for that area, so that we could actually keep some of that traffic off, because we know they're all going to Boise or Meridian or Nampa or wherever to work. I mean, that's where these cars are going to go. And was told no, that none of that was going to change. So we're talking about existing streets where our children are attending school, are using the library, are on that road, where my husband's not the only one with a wheelchair that has to run up and down that road because the sidewalks are inadequate and are not disability accessible. So what is going to happen? I mean, what's going to happen with all of that? Like, these things are real concerns, and I'm aghast that there are no parks that are in this whole proposed subdivision. So that means all of those children are now leaving that subdivision in order to go and play. So where are they going? I understand some will go to Legacy Park, but some will not. And so I agree with the previous speaker, and that is that, you know, we're rushing into something where the lots are extremely small, where we're going to cram as many people in as possible. we're gonna charge them $300,000 plus to build there, and to me, it just seems like this is so poorly planned that we're gonna look back on this in 10 years and go, what the hell were we thinking? My thoughts.
Thank you.
Good job.
Hello, people. I'm Maria Costa Boyer. I live on Northeast Union Street, right near Third by Legacy. I wanted to talk about is also touch more a little bit on the schools. Right now, we do not even have funding for a new high school that we are desperately needing, and that falls on to us taxpayers. And every year, I lived near Legacy Park for the last 6 years, and I lived on the other side near West for 13 years prior to that. We own both of those properties. But my concern is we keep adding all these developing of properties in this town. This is not even the first one. There's one in Rolling Hills, there's the other one down past the old movie theater, down by those apartments that just shot up and were built like within the last year and are pretty much sold out. How are we gonna sustain? We don't have enough schooling property for all the kids we have prior to these developing sites going up. And now, I mean, my kids are attending a high school out there in buildings and mobile buildings. We're gonna look like Meridian, where they put all this infrastructure on hold, on the back burner, and they put all these housing developments in place, but they don't have room for all these school children. They are putting them in all these modular outlets. Meridian was the last school district in Idaho to actually get online because they had so many kids and so many that they couldn't get to. So how are we gonna handle that? I am very concerned. And I live on that street, that they're talking that the traffic comes, and it's bad enough as it is. And people whipping down. So I would really like to see, I didn't know there was a whole huge packet. I think that should have been given to us. And I think we should have more notice, not than people just 300 feet from the development. That's crap. Because we should have been notified of what's going on. I would like to see a list of all your projects in this town, because if we do not have the infrastructure, we shouldn't be doing it, because you know what? It's gonna come to our taxpayers, and the ones buying really won't get to pay into that until 2 or 3 years down the line. Well, we've been paying for it for year after year with bonds and levies. This is not a time to keep putting that on the back burner. We need to address that matter now. I think, because we're not gonna have anything for our kids. And we're already behind the 8 ball, behind Boise, and getting our kids educated. If we keep overfilling these classrooms, we're gonna have nothing left. Our kids are just gonna keep falling behind the waistline. And it's not gonna do them any good going further. You want them to come back? How are they gonna come back? For what? We're not at a level at Bishop Kelly for schooling. We're not at a level in some of the Meridian schools in Mountain Home. And we need to be up there to be competitive. So I would like to see that addressed, and I think the developers should help pay for a road or a route up and over, because we have to protect our kids, or they need to put roundabouts in, speed bumps. I prefer roundabouts, because if we're not doing the keep flow of traffic going, but something needs to be done. Because that corner where he's talking about, near 5th and Union Street, there's no stop sign. People blow through that, there's gonna be an accident, a head-on collision. There's kids right on that corner, and I've seen it many a time, people just flying down there. And you saw me, they did an impact study. Be there at 11 o'clock at night on a Friday night. Be there at Sunday morning. Be there at soccer games are on at Saturday morning. I mean, just be there. I don't know when the impact study was done, but I guarantee it wasn't in the high times that we're out there trying to get our work done and gardening and seeing these people fly down our street. So, that's my 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Well, I was gonna say, Liberty, I live on Trail Ridge Court, and I agree with there's not enough streets.
Need a name.
Start Liberty Troush, T-R-A-U-S-C-H. I live on Trail Ridge Court. So I agree with everything that's going on, but I wanna bring up healthcare, because there's not enough healthcare in Mountain Home to support these people. I have to wait 6 weeks just to get an appointment here in town. My son has to go to Boise every time he has to get an appointment, because there's no healthcare here. Also, if you've driven on 10th East, you know that once they start digging, 3,000 little whistle pigs are gonna be looking for a new home, right? So, who's gonna come to the exterminator to come to my house, cause that's all where they're gonna go. And once they start digging up that, there's gonna be a ton of whistle pig species and urine in the air. And it's gonna be, whoever's downwind is gonna be breathing that in. So that's very detrimental to all of our health right there. And that's all I have there.
Hi, I'm Rex Hunziker. I live on North 6 East. I'll be real quick. I just wanted to add to the previous comments about the traffic study. So North 6 East is already a major thoroughfare. People haul ass on that road. The traffic volume is already heavy, and so I would just like to reiterate that, or I'd like to understand better what traffic analysis was done already on North 6 specifically, because you had another 400 vehicles, right? Lots of kids in the neighborhood, elderly people that live there, and we've already got an issue with volume and people speeding, constantly speeding up and down that road. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Terry Manduca. I live on 10th Street. I'm a realtor and I work for the school district. I have for 21 years, so I got a kind of a triple edge on this whole deal here. I met with Brock about a week and a half ago, got some great information. I'm excited for development to come to Mountain Home, but I feel like we have to be responsible and thoughtful in our development. And Brock shared with me the application for Gem State, and we're going from an R3 zoning designation to a PUD, and that allows for some big differences. The minimum lot size from 6,500 square feet to 3,420. The lot coverage in an R3 of 35% goes to 50% in a PUD. This minimum street frontage in an R3 is 70 foot, and it goes to 36 foot, okay? The minimum square footage on a ground level is 1,100 square foot in an R3 and 1,350 in a two-story. There is no minimum square foot. So my question is, when I look at this map, exactly how many are single-family homes and how many are detached townhomes? What is a detached townhome? How is that different from a single-family home? Is it the lot size that makes that designation? Will these dwellings all have attached garages? Will there be detached garages in these smaller units? Will there be private backyards with fences, or will there be common backyards in these smaller units? What are the numbers? How many are gonna be the small units exactly? How many are gonna be the larger units? I think the density is important for us. We live in the high desert, water's an issue. And I know the xeriscaping is gonna be lovely, but people are gonna be living in these dwellings and using the water, so we have to be thoughtful with our water. I'm all for housing, trust me, there's a real need for it here. But I'm just curious, I can't visualize this. I drove in Boise Saturday trying to find this developer's subdivisions, and some of the spans between housing in some of these detached townhome subdivisions, some of it's like 5 foot. It's not very much. When I looked at the picture earlier, when you look, I'd like to know what that distance is, and how does that relate for our fire department? If a structure catches on fire and it's that close to another structure, is that not a fire hazard? With the 3 foot being minimized in the street, goes from 39 to 36, can a fire truck get down a street if there's a 4-wheel drive pickup truck parked on either side? Can the street sweeper get down the street? These are all just questions. I mean, I'm grateful that this is gonna get developed. Trust me, it's been an eyesore and a constant source of trash and tumbleweeds for the entire time I've lived across the street. I am probably more excited than anybody that it's gonna develop. I just worry that by allowing the PUD, we've kind of not been thoughtful in our design here. I would rather it stay R3, and that's all I have.
First of all, thank you for letting me have the opportunity to speak about this Thunderbolt Landing. I don't begrudge anyone for trying to make a profit. Oh, Linda Bennett, sorry. I don't begrudge anybody for wanting to develop their property or making a profit, but I have a lot of issues with this. First of all, the lots on the south and the west side of that property will match to the adjoining neighborhood. And I feel that same consideration should be done to the houses, on 10th East and around the cul-de-sac. They should have a little bit larger lot to match to the ones across the street. Not only would this be fair, but it would be also aesthetically pleasing for potential buyers as they approach the development. And the 200 lots on the inside are just way too small. They should lose a few lots to increase the footage. If you dropped 12 feet of a lot now and again, that would allow you to have that extra space to the lot next to it, and it would become lot. Don't make this a subdivision of row houses. I mean, this needs to have a place where kids can live, can play, they can run across the street, and not everybody can go to Legacy Park. You can't send a 3-year-old down there to play, but you can send him to the neighbor's house to play in the sandbox. So I'm asking those lots be increased a little bit. The difference in the lots would make up for any income loss. Water cannot be ignored. The water line from the air base is not going to be a reliable source, as the base's needs are going to be increasing as well. And so digging a well south of town is not going to solve the problem, because it'll probably go into the same aquifer that we're digging out now, and we're losing water level every year. So that's not going to work. And industrial park, when that's completed, how much water are they going to be taking? And will there be enough then? Will you be able to keep up your water pressure? Rumor has it that field was used as a hazardous dump a while back, or toxic waste, whatever. But when was the last time an oil sample was taken? What is in that dirt, and what's going to be flying around along with all the whistle pigs and all their gases? So, and then you mentioned something about an HOA. Is this whole unit going to be under an HOA provision?
Something that will allow the applicant to.
So what happens when somebody fails on their HOA fees, and how much are they going to be? You talk about affordable housing. It's not going to be affordable housing with an HOA fee. That's just going to increase it. I say give them a bigger lot so that they can get a better footprint of a house, so that it makes a quality development, not quantity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Megan Darby. You all have a copy of this letter, also hopefully attached along with Ron and Deb Swearingen's letter. They are
Chair, Becky, can we get you to sign in?
Sure, I'll sign in right after I'm done, or, yeah, just in a second. So anyway, I will read my letter, just for the public record. Dear Commissioners, as homeowners in direct impact, we have some concerns with the Thunderbolt Landing subdivision and the current variances being requested. This letter is not to be construed as we are against the development of the land. In fact, we welcome the development to mitigate the tumbleweeds and add much-needed homes for Salem Mountain Home. Our concerns are the density of the subdivision will add an extreme amount of traffic to main thoroughfares that are already busy. This route is commonly used to access the freeway. 6th and 10th Street will become the main route for an additional 400 plus cars, and Union Street will also see the added traffic. There are no subdivisions with this density in Mountain Home. I urge you to explore CBH's subdivision or similar subdivisions in the Boise area to see for yourself what this looks like. The type of homes that are being requested to be built will impact our home values in Bel Air subdivision. 200 plus townhomes on 3,420 square feet lots does not mimic the surrounding homes, or any subdivision in Mountain Home for that matter. When homeowners built in Bel Air or bought, when homeowners built or bought in Bel Air, they built with the premise that the surrounding area will continue to be R2 zoning, or at least R3 with no variances, which in most subdivisions surrounding us for at least a half a mile or more. In my opinion, the Thunderbolt Landing goes against the comprehensive plan the city created to protect the property rights and enhance the values. These townhomes will likely be purchased by investors who will in turn rent them out. I manage a lot of homes. I see the impact to neighborhoods with unkept rentals. These types of units are perfect homes for investors to buy. In the current design, there is a safety concern for the narrowing streets from the minimum 60 feet to 36 feet. 36 feet does not allow for much room for emergency traffic to safely navigate through cars parked on the sides. These two examples below from the City of Mountain Home Planning and Zoning Guide are additional reasons why I think this development needs to be thoroughly thought about. In specific, make the project attractive and efficient from the standpoint of the adjoining and surrounding non-commercial areas, to avoid undue concentration of population and overcrowding of land, to allow the local school districts to participate in the community planning and development process so as that to address public school needs and impacts on an ongoing basis, and to protect the property values. I will not go through, I copied and pasted some codes. Again, you guys all should have received this letter. These come straight from the City of Mountain Home. In closing, I would like that the planning and zoning and then ultimately the City Council will think long-term about this project. The impact on the schools and the infrastructure that is falling apart already. This is a coveted 40 acres in the north end of Mountain Home, which is a desirable area of Mountain Home for residents who want to live. I would like to see the denial of the PUD, which allows for zoning variances. Go back to the drawing board and CBH design a thoughtful subdivision that will allow residents in Mountain Home to build a nice home. Now there's my letter. You guys all have a copy of that along with Ron and Deb Swearingen's letter. They are in the warm weather, so they asked me to send this. And then on top of that, in addition, just listening to, and I don't know where I'm at with my timing, but the other thing I would like to add, and it's just while I mentioned the schools, you know, these investors, $250,000 to $300,000 homes are nothing for them. I have several investors who would scoop these properties up. They don't live here in the state of Idaho. They don't live in Mountain Home. They don't vote on our levies. They don't vote for our school. They pay taxes, but it will severely impact our school districts if these homes become investment properties. So anyway, that was all I have to say. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for your work.
Anybody else?
Nobody else.
I'm not on the list, I'll find that in just a second.
Can you get your name and your address?
Connie Clark, 4975 Northeast Stetson Place. I'm actually out in the county, but I'm a realtor here, and I get asked all the time for help them to find them houses. One thing that wasn't mentioned is older folks. I'm all for development, don't wanna get you wrong, I will sell a house. But the single story, I think, in all of the examples, there was not enough single story. We get a lot of people who fall in love with Mountain Home. They do their time here, they move elsewhere with the military, but they come back here. And when they do, they want a single story home, just because of the stairs, once the kids are gone. So I would like to see in whatever development comes, because I think it's a good spot for some, but I think some more consideration for a single level homes should kind of balance the two-story. Okay?
Thank you. The sign sheet's right up there.
Oh, Connie. Oh. Are you uncommitted on that, Connie?
I am.
Yeah, use that one that's there on the blue one. You got it.
Drake. I'm also a realtor, 745 Southwest Nugget, so I'm more closely tied with the South Fifth. But I see a lot of developments going on right now. And furthermore, I've been selling a lot of new property in Meridian, so I've been able to see some of those developments and see in the MLS some of the agent remarks that we're having with that. And what I'm seeing a lot is developers are now actually putting up parameters as far as who can purchase those properties. So for example, I've seen it on more than one listing where it says no investors please. So we are able to somehow, what's the word I'm looking for, control who can actually purchase these properties. And obviously when we put in our contracts, that they are looking to occupy or not looking to occupy that home, that's actually a choice that the seller can make. So I just wanted to add that comment. The other comment I wanted to add, and somebody mentioned it, and it kind of made me chuckle a little bit. There are airmen right now looking and that can afford homes in the 250 to 300 to 350 to 400 to 450 to 500. I don't know if you've heard this or not, but actually the wing commander did specify that Idaho, and specifically our air base, they have the highest BAH of the entire country, which is crazy to me. So I just wanted to point that out and just make a little comment because I just felt like that was not really accurate. And I'll sign this. Yep.
Anybody else?
I'm Josh Martinez. I live at 1920 North 60th. So, I'm gonna keep beating the dead horse here about the traffic. That's gonna be my biggest concern. I have two younger daughters. Like to teach them to ride bike. You know, I use 19th right now because it's a dead end road. It's kind of nice for that. I'm going to definitely see an increase on 19th and by the mayor's house. Coming across, I drive these streets daily. I see the traffic flows. I know not only is Union going to get heavily impacted, but you're going to have East 15th heavily impacted. You're going to even farther down over off the 10th, the skate park area. So when we see these traffic studies, hopefully you guys will be able to break those down a little bit more, but look out farther than just, these guys definitely in Union and that subdivision area. But you gotta think of these other places that are gonna be heavily trafficked. 15th is already a speedway, cause it's another one branches off the 3rd, you gotta go down north. We've got those parks, you got Legacy, you've got Stone Tree that people don't, do the speed limits on those roads, so they're gonna continue to not go. You're gonna have people coming from Union down, and then McMurtry, like everybody says, is gonna get heavily, impacted, so please look at that. And if we can minimize the housing, and pretty much that's what it sounds like the collective is we need to keep it down. I'm not against it. I hopefully they won't block my view. But less houses would be nice. So, just because of that.
Anybody else? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing at this time. With that, I do want to say thank you to everybody for your comments, your concerns, your questions, and as a commission, we will be. I got you. We will definitely be considering everything in which you have spoken tonight. We appreciate everybody coming forward. So I'd like to invite the developer back up.
Mr. Chair, I also want to note that we have various staff members available, public works director, fire chief, our police chief, who are here and able to answer any questions you may have pertaining to specific items that may pertain to what they are in charge of.
Perfect. I actually would like, is fire chief here? He's back here, okay. Sorry, no, you're good, you're good.
I was
It's
just saying,
for questions.
why don't we let him answer some of your questions, so I don't try to answer those if he's the professional that can answer
I was just gonna bring him into the audience.
okay.
Do you, we can
Because
start, it doesn't matter. What, you wanna start with you? We can start with you.
All right, thank you again, Jane Suggs, Gem State Planning, representing the Thunderbolt Landing Project. I wish I could have specific answers for everything, but I know there's quite a few. It sounds like we've got this real challenge, because we want houses that people can afford, but we wanna limit the number of lots here, which makes every house more expensive. So the only way we're able to keep some of the prices down is to have a certain number of homes, and we've tried to do that with this project with the PUD. So if you wanna go back and just do all one kinda house, all one size lot, then I will tell you, every one of those will be more expensive than the mix of the mix of prices that we have now, because now we have 16,000 square foot lots. There are gonna be some nice homes on those. Now we have some smaller lots, and I appreciate the real estate agent that said, you know, we do have people that want to buy on all of those, but if you tell me that you wanna lose 20, 30, 40 lots out of here, every home will be more expensive. So that, I guess that's just the balance, and it's a tough place to be, because that's exactly what we're seeing in every jurisdiction. I just got a project approved in Meridian at 8 dwelling units per acre. So, I mean, if we're close, not even 6, then, I mean, that's what they're looking for, because they wanna have that mix of lot sizes, and that's what we have. I don't know, Mount Hope's not Meridian, but I'm just telling you that that's what we're going. Of course, Boise City is pushing higher and higher densities. I know you've been reading the paper about some of the projects going on there. I do appreciate the fact that there are, well, I wanna talk a little bit about traffic, but it sounds like there are some traffic issues right now, people speeding. Okay, you're all here, so talk amongst yourselves and stop that. So, because that's one of the things that we can't control of what's going on today. We will be having some more traffic on those streets, and we'd be happy to do whatever the Public Works wants us to do, but I don't see that the problems that we're having now, we should be held responsible for those. So, again, we're gonna add some traffic to those streets, and people are gonna be moving to get to the freeway, and we know those, and those are why I pulled up that functional street map to show many of those streets are collector streets. They're supposed to be carrying that traffic. We will be putting in that 10-foot pathway, so for those sidewalks that don't have the handicap routes, we will be putting those ramps in at all of our intersections. So we'll be doing that. It will be accessible in that way. I will let others, I believe the city sends out information to the schools, and we get feedback from the schools if they choose to decide that. We also have people here that can respond to emergency services. I don't know about the hospital beds, because I don't know that you notify the hospitals, but we do notify emergency services. Again, one of the things we're trying to do, and Brock mentioned this from the very beginning, this is not your standard subdivision. We are trying to create a community that is a place where you can live from let's say it's your first house, and it's just a standard house, but then you wanna move up to a bigger house, but you wanna stay here. Maybe it's while your kids are still even in school, and you can do that with the PUD. I mean, again, a standard subdivision, somebody just goes in and builds the same thing, but in this case, we're building a planned unit development, and the purpose behind that, as Brock said, is to have a mix of housing, of opportunities. Again, people talked about wanting big green grass yards and green grass. We are going to be promoting low water use, and we think that's the responsible thing to do in this location where we don't have water rights. And we are very close to existing parks, and we're going to improve a park across the pathway for us. You won't even have to cross the street. You can walk down pathways and get to this park, and we will be improving that park as well. People were talking a little bit about the streets, 36-foot wide streets instead of 39, which is your standard, and we've asked for that in the PUD. 36 is a standard width for the rest of the jurisdictions I work in. Everything from from New Plymouth to Boise, anything in Ada County has a 36. They actually even go down to 33 back to back with parking on both sides, and emergency vehicles can still make it through with parking on both sides with a 33. There's plenty of room. So we're going with a 36. And again, over time, that maintenance cost is really, and it really improves your maintenance responsibilities, because you'll be, and I don't know if you chip seal, but you likely have to chip seal, repair. People were talking about streets not in great shape, but these streets will be brand new in great shape, and they will be public streets. They will be dedicated to the public. Again, let's see, the HOA, yes, there will be a homeowners association for this entire development. And one of the things we are trying to do is to make sure that that's not something that's gonna cost you a fortune. But it is the way that gets people to maintain their yards, don't put their garbage cans out when they're not supposed to. If people kind of patrol so they don't trash the open spaces that we do have, this is weird, but in the downturn, people were taking plantings out of open spaces and putting them in their yard, back in the day. I don't know if you remember that. I don't know if the realtors remember that, but that was kind of crazy. But we will be asking for those fees. There will be some control over those spaces too. So we want to make sure that those are maintained, well maintained. You can see from this, even as you enter the park, even though we have low water use, we do have some trees put in. Those would be drip irrigated, so that a nice kind of entry into the neighborhood. If you look at the PUD document, that is a development agreement. Like I mentioned before, it is a contract. It has specifically how many thousands of square feet of sidewalk we're putting in, how much pathway. It talks about all the things that we're doing to make sure that this is a quality development. And again, if there are some questions that you have that you want to add to that document, that would be fine too. The development agreement document that we are prepared to sign as we move forward. So again, your recommendation of approval would be greatly appreciated. Let's see. I think we do have single story homes. I don't know if you want to go back into most of the lots are the 50s, the 50 to 60 square foot lots. Some of them are a little bit smaller. We just have a certain product that fits on those 36-foot wide lots, so that's why everybody seems to be focused on those. But most of the houses are going to be 50-foot wide lots, 40-foot wide homes, 2-car garages, parking in front of the garages, plenty of room to park, parking on the street when you have a 50-foot wide lot, and 5-foot setbacks on each house, so 10 feet between the houses, and that meets the fire code. They even in most building codes. Most building codes allow you to actually have appurtenances that go into that space, if there's a bay window or something like that. But that does meet the fire code, and you can get between the houses. Not with a vehicle, but the people can. Let's see. You have a traffic study. It was included in our package. I didn't bring my traffic engineer with me, and I'm not a traffic engineer. But I can tell you that he's looked at each one of the streets that are first impacted, because once you leave, say, 6th and 10th down to 15th, you start dispersing traffic and bringing a lot more traffic in from other areas. So those are the locations and intersections that are most impacted by our traffic. So, and each of those intersections has been analyzed, and they still are A and B levels of service. So people talk about an on-ramp. There's not a way to get an on-ramp from a subdivision onto an interstate highway. So we won't be able to do that. But we are analyzing those streets, and we have so many accesses. Oh, you pulled up our nice lots. Okay, so these are the houses, some 1-story and some 2-story. So you can see that we have those. It'll be intermixed. Some 1, some 2. I can't. If you want to do a percentage, we could say 10 or 20% of the 50 foots would be 1-story. If that is something that helps move this along, I can appreciate that too. But we like to intermix it. You see the larger lots, a lot of those are 2-story homes. There's one, and we have those bonus rooms. I don't think they really count as 2-story, but they're the bonus room over the garages are called 1-story with a bonus. There is in your document a DA that says when there are one-story homes adjacent, we want to make those one-story, especially along those larger lots in Bel Air. And I think that we're gonna do that along the south side too. We can do that along the south side too. We were thinking particularly on the west side because those are good-sized lots, but we can do that with Bel Air number 1. If they're one-story homes, we'll make those homes one-story as well. Because those are 70-foot wide lots and it would be easy to make a one-story home there. So those really match up really well. You're right. And then these people that have enjoyed looking out their back door at a lot. But, and what they don't want to see is a 2-story home behind them looking into their backyard. So we will make, where they're 1-story homes, we'll make 1-story homes. Yeah. Questions. I know there were lots of things talked about, and I'm sure I didn't hit on all of them. So I would appreciate it if you would forward your approval of the annexation and the PUD to the city council. If you feel like you need some more time to study the information that's been provided to you or consider that information, we'd be happy to come back. I think there's opportunity to come back in a couple of weeks. If you want more information, I didn't get a copy of some of the letters, so eventually I'll get those letters from some of the our neighbors. But yeah, I'm very interested in seeing answering any questions you have and looking forward to your approval. Thank you.
I actually apologize for having you guys wait. One of the questions that did come up amongst the people was the concern of the narrowing of the streets and emergency vehicles with apparatus per se. Do you feel that the narrowing of the streets would suffice with a ladder truck and an engine going down safely with cars potentially parked on the site?
Mr. Chairman and Board, we can talk specifics in terms of what's Brian's forte. I can tell you that we sit at the table of these development meetings from square one, but we've never been asked to compromise anything in terms of anything that would be outside of our code. Brian can speak specifically to what those codes are, but I can assure you that the codes that are proposed for this development are well within the parameters that would be required by fire code.
So if we're talking worst case scenario, and we're talking an aerial apparatus access road, the minimum, and I think Jane mentioned 33 feet, the fire code is actually 32 with parking on both sides. So if the road is 32 feet or more in width, it suffices 2 lanes for fire apparatus and for parking on both sides.
Okay. Thank you. Commission, any questions?
Chairman, question on the traffic studies. The traffic studies, I noted when I was reading through it, there's several numbers that are pulled out of the manual, and I was wanting to know if there were actually any actual traffic studies in terms of traffic counts in those specific areas, counting meters, or if it's just that these are taken out of manual saying with this number of density of the population, what is the traffic, that is going to go over those roads?
I didn't bring my appendix B because it's such a big document, but there were traffic counts that were actually taken to determine what the existing traffic is. So we did those counts to determine what the existing traffic is on those intersections and road sections that we discussed with Public Works. They said, oh, you need to analyze these. So in Appendix B, there are some existing traffic counts. Now, what happens is we take those counts and we say, okay, what happens 5 years from now with just the background traffic? Let's grow that existing traffic because there's others. So we have existing traffic, we have background traffic, and then we have our project with the background traffic. And that's the determination about what impact that we have. So again, I don't have the appendix that shows you, but yes, there were traffic counts. And the manual, the numbers they come up with are how many cars per day, like we talked about, collector streets can carry 3,000 cars a day. And when you have a street right now that has 1,000 cars a day, there's lots of opportunity to add traffic to those collector streets without changing the level of service. So I know it's a change because you're used to being able to pull out. anecdotally, I live in the east end of Boise, and I have to get on Warm Springs every day. And ever since Harris Ranch was built, I realized that I have a little harder time to get up on the Warm Springs. But I knew that when I bought, that there was going to be development to the east, even though I bought like 18 years ago, which was great. But I knew that that was going to be in the city one day, and there was going to be more traffic there. So I was aware of that there was going to be more traffic, and I have to deal with that. And we often find, I mean, when the Botanical Garden has something going on, I can't even get to my house. I have to use kind of a back door to get to my house. But yeah, we know that during certain times, like when schools get out, there you'll see the moms and the dads lined up on the streets, and it just makes it a whole lot harder sometimes to get in and out. And you know, we learn to live with that because we live in an urban environment. Again, these numbers of houses are not unusual for a city. You know, if I was doing something maybe out in the country, Elmore County, I would not be doing this type of density. I would be doing larger lots, but we are in a city, we have the utility services available, the streets network is already there, you've just heard from the emergency services are available, and we will be providing a lot of money into the tax base for that, and making sure of that. And for people about the schools, I'd recommend impact fees for schools. I think Mountain Home CUNA, I know, was leading the fray in that. I don't know if Mountain Home was participating in that, but there was a big move for a while to try to add impact fees, because we do take it. I think you have impact fees for parks? Do you have?
Parks, police, fire streets typically.
Yeah.
Police, fire, and streets.
Police, fire, and streets,
But
not
schools-
parks yet.
Schools are prohibited by statute.
By statute, and I know, well, that was something that CUNA was prepared to take to the legislature, but I don't think it really got any legs this year, anyway. So,
In that development, what is the span between the smaller lot sizes between homes?
the distance between the homes,
Distance between the homes.
for the small, 10 feet, so 5 feet from the property boundary. So all the homes are detached, so from the property boundary to the house, the base of the house is on the side is 5 feet, and on the other side 5 feet. So if you have two of those next to each other, there's 10 feet between the homes, and a property line in between. So when you call these townhomes, my definition of a townhome is typically something that's attached. There are no attached houses here, they're all detached, everyone will have a yard, so even in the backyards with just, if you built out completely, and not every home, even on the smaller lots, goes from setback to setback. There'll likely be side yard setbacks, but in the front or the back, in the back they might not go to the 15-foot backyard setback, they could go to 20, so you would have a 36 by 20 lot, yes, fairly small, but still a place to barbecue, recreate, and if you're like me, I have a 5,000 square foot lot, and I won't have less, because I'm tired of cutting grass. So I have a patio and a deck, and that's all I really want. I don't really want all the rest of it. Well, I want a place for my tomatoes, but other than that. But no, again, that is how we came up with the 50%, because we thought if anybody wanted to, and not necessarily the builder, but if they wanted to add on to the back of their house and go to the setback, they would cover about 50% of the lot, going setback to setback, 20 in the front, 15 in the back, 5 in the side, and then we calculated it, and it was about 50%, or just at it. So that's why we came up with the 50. Having something smaller than that, you're gonna get a tall, skinny house, and we really wanna provide, and I can't imagine we're gonna build, well, I'll take it back. I was looking on the CDH website, and there were some homes that were 1,120 square feet. They're 2-story, so they're what, 6,000 up and 6 down and 5 up, or 7 down and 4 up. I don't know, whatever that turns out to be. But anyway, with the garages, I mean, but those are the only ways that I know that a builder who, I mean, just the materials itself is going to run you $200,000 or maybe $250,000. And again, you're just estimating at 3. I can't. Please don't hold me to that for a small house to do that, because in this crazy market, I mean, we might be seeing a downturn before we see things change. And that's the only thing that would really ever change our plan, is we have an idea that we're going to build out in about 5 years, this project. So it's not all going to happen at one time. We're going to start in the south and work our way with sewer and other improvements. But if the market, if interest rates go up to 8 or 10%, it's gonna be a little slower than that.
The one thing I have a question on, I heard in all the conversations we had, we keep getting referred to Boise, Meridian, and other places beyond. I think a lot of people come to Mountain Home because Mountain Home. There's the size of the lots and the HOA are the two things that concern me. One, the HOA, I was in the HOA in the last 2 years, and developers left and nothing. So, you know, the guarantee of how the housing is gonna look after that developer leaves. Two, it's just based on what I'm seeing, and maybe I'm saying this out of context, correct me if I'm wrong, I just feel like I need more information, and I think the congregation here need more information, because it just seems like there's a lot of numbers flowing around, and I'm kept pretty decent notes here. I got 14 entries, and I think we had to realize, as a realtor state, we have people who want to come in because we're not the other. And I think that's my biggest concern, is how are we going to maintain these smaller lots, that culture.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm just like, why are we focusing on just one lot size? Can we not focus on the larger lots?
Yes, ma'am, we can, but this, after my 14 notes, that's kind of the thing that circle and circle and circle and circle. And I don't have a computer in front of me, I didn't run the analysis though, and I'm just going off my Arkansas brain here. Oklahoma, either or. So that's where, you know, I feel like part of this community, we're here to represent and ask questions, and that's the thing that I'm seeing is the lot size, the lot size, the lot size. And I think more, that's what I'm seeing the most, and trying to compare us to other housing units, it's gonna be hard for me to conceptualize, because I don't know what it looks like 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. Are there any studies on this?
Well, okay, so the houses will be sold to individuals who will maintain their homes. The HOA is not going to maintain their yards or their homes. What the HOA is going to maintain are those pathways, to make sure the pathways stay clear of debris. We are actually using some low water use.
Can I interrupt you there?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong again, but I thought you said the HOA was to keep people from leaving their garbage cans out in front and such.
Well, that's typically what an HOA will do. I mean,
You said
this one.
HOA is only for the green spaces.
No, the but you said, how are the houses gonna look? The houses are gonna look, we can write an HOA that says, I don't care if you leave your trash out all week. I mean, you know, it's typically, I've never lived in an HOA neighborhood, but typically, the HOA neighborhood, like, tries to keep people from making the place look trashy.
Right, no, agree.
Yeah,
I mean, I
so,
agree.
but again, there'll be a professional management company. And that will be up to the board of the neighbors to determine whether or not they want to have an HOA that leases garbage cans. If they don't, they don't. But it's mostly for the open spaces. It's mostly for the open spaces to make sure that they're maintained, and, you know, that if there's a dead tree, the HOA money will go replace the tree, because that's what you want. I mean, I made that up because it typically seems to be one of the things that people complain about when they're talking about HOAs is, well, they got me again for leaving my garbage can out.
Right, and you know, my idea of HOA was just that, someone that going around, make sure everything looks right, and I just wanna make sure that the assurance I got, that it was for the whole subdivision, not for the green spaces or dry spaces, or the right word to say that.
Okay, so I'm guessing I think your question is it just for the common lots?
Yes, is that what you're saying?
Well, it will be up to what you would like the HOA to be. I will take your advice, and I think the people who live there will be on a board, an HOA board. They'll hire a professional manager, and they'll provide some feedback on it. Every development has that. I just think, so we're trying to do what we can to make it a great neighborhood. I mean, again, not just, if garbage cans are not an issue, they're not an issue.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I want to jump back real quick, and you said, why are we making a big deal of smaller lot sizes?
Right.
From what I heard this evening, regulation, which is going to drastically increase the concerns of the public with traffic. So I think that's really where that smaller lot size issue is coming from. Correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner, that's kind of like what I was listening to from everybody's concerns. So that is something that personally, when we talk about lot sizes and we talk about traffic, and you're right, we do have the traffic study that was conducted. Listening to individuals who live within that area, I think having a first-person view is different than having an outside study, personally. That's just me. You're going to listen to somebody on the corner of a street before you listen to someone from Boise giving some kind of research, because that person's there. So when it comes to the traffic issues, I understand that, and I believe increasing the lot size would potentially remove some of the traffic problems, because I don't hear the public saying that we want the development.
Right.
I hear that the public is saying we don't want an increased flow of potential danger in our neighborhood with children, with elderly, with the handicapped, whatever we might have there. And the fear would be that a smaller lot size increases higher population, increasing more traffic. So that's.
Okay. I appreciate that. I appreciate your focusing on those smaller lots, but again, I'll just tell you that that's the reason for the PUD, because if we don't get the smaller lots, you won't get the larger lots. Because we need that mix and that number to make things happen. We can't start with the R3 size lots and go bigger, because that doesn't provide the revenue we need to develop the property. So, yeah.
It doesn't provide the money. It doesn't provide the money.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but what I just heard you say, please correct me if I'm wrong, is if you do not get the PUD, you do not develop.
I would like to say that we'd like to come back and see if we can address that. I'm not at liberty, I'm not the developer, I'm representing the developer. I can come back and we will talk about the numbers, the percentage of lots that are smaller, with the 36, we'll talk about the numbers that are between, 36 to 60 or 70, we will come back with those numbers. If there's something that I can convince the developer to do to change that percentage, but I would say that the reason for the PUD is so that we can give you large lots and small lots and do the things we wanna do to the park. That is not, we will spend money there. Again, we've been working with the staff for the past 6 months, maybe 8 months, and this is definitely something that the staff was very interested in doing, seeing a mix of lot sizes, not just a standard subdivision. So that's why we have pursued this as far as we have, and we think we have a great product, and we have, again, trying to balance that affordability with the lots. I mean, again, trying to figure out a way to do that so that we're not just building $400,000 and $500,000 homes or whatever. So, I mean, I really am trying to appeal to you that you might see this. And yes, the mix of lots may give you more houses, but that is part and parcel of being this urban environment, so that we are doing something that's a little bit different than what's out there now. So, I mean, I really think that when you build something that's a little different from what's existing, you create a better community. So instead of having one lot size. But I appreciate your comments, you're right, to focus on the smaller ones because that's where the comments are. I just think that there are lots of people that are interested in buying a smaller lot with a smaller home, just like there are lots of people wanting to build the standard standard home on a standard lot, and then hopefully somebody that wants to build on those big ones, because those are gonna be pretty nice houses too. So, yeah, if you would let me come back with some data for you, I mean, again, I will appeal to you that the facts are in the traffic study. They are prepared by a professional traffic engineer based on true counts. So, I mean, I will complain that there's no way to get out on Warm Springs, but I realize there is because I come to work every day, So I just appeal to you that I appreciate the first person responses, but I also want you to balance that with the numbers that are prepared by the professional too. about what happens on a day-to-day basis, and where, if there are some specific places where there needs to be something done, I mean, we should talk about that too. If there's a place off-site where we need to fund a handicap ramp, we can do that too. I can't necessarily put in sidewalks everywhere because I can't get on people's property, not like the city can, but I can do some other things within the right of way if that's necessary. I don't think emergency services like the speed bumps and that kind of thing anymore, but we can do what we can to, I mean, even on 10th, if you want us to build out like, the bulb outs, we call them bulb outs, to kind of slow traffic down, we can do those too. We do those on a lot of places where we have straight streets, and you've got a lot of straight streets here, where we can go in on the corners, and you've seen them. Maintenance people don't like them too much because they mess up the street sweeping, but we can do the bulb outs that can help slow traffic down, because if you're driving down the street and all of a sudden you see something like that, it slows you down. So, I mean, those are the types of things that if you're interested in, we come back and we can talk to the staff and figure out if there's some things we can add that makes this project more appealing besides losing the small lots.
Commissioner, do you have anything else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I got a couple things. Maybe some comments and some questions, maybe the police chief's done. Have you guys, one of the citizens, and I'm sorry, I wrote everybody's name down, and I've probably got about 14 notes myself. Somebody mentioned speeding. I know it's not the developer's issue to fix speeding, but I'm interested if the police department has noticed any, whether speeding or otherwise, traffic issues, and does the police department have a concern with that type of influx of traffic?
I mean, more traffic, means obviously more people traveling on those streets, and I don't know that necessarily more traffic means more speeders, but does mean more cars. So we are not overly concerned about the number of cars as long as it being safe. So that's kind of where we come from. Of course, we're happy to address any issue that anyone has in any neighborhood. Get a complaint, and we go focus on that area in that neighborhood. So that's kind of our position.
The other maybe some observation here, it's, first observation is the size of this room and the people waiting outside. This is more of a serious city council meeting amount of people. I mean, we're lucky to have one individual in this audience. Any other issues? So that speaks to me loudly. The other one is, it's almost an oxymoron to have at least 3 realtors sit up here. 4 realtors. And be concerned about the number of homes to be sold in this town. So that is important to me in the same respect that the amount of people that are here. It's not just traffic, I think it's the type of homes. I think Mr. Roeder hit on it. This isn't Boise. People don't want Boise and not home. I appreciate the need for the homes. We need more homes. It's obvious. We need, probably before the military folks, we need more rentals, but we also need more single family homes to purchase. I don't think, based on what I've heard here tonight, those smaller lot size, smaller homes are the type of homes that many residents really want to see. So I guess my comment is, just because something's allowed or it's within code, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best fit for a particular area. I think that's where we're at here. I don't think I really heard anybody tonight say they didn't want it to be developed, that specific piece of property. Just not like this. That's just my observation.
Mr. Chairman, there are some things that just kind of rankle a little bit. And those are things that there are people who want those kinds of homes and they want to be in a nice area. They can't afford any more than that. And they may be just a husband and wife. if I was looking for a place right now, and I'm single now, I certainly wouldn't wanna buy a huge gigantic house, and there are a lot of people, you're talking about retired people, their kids are gone, they're not looking for 2,000, 3,000 square foot houses. If I think right now that, and I live on a farm, I admit it, so I've got lots of area. But there's gonna come a time when I can't do my farm, and it's probably sooner than later. I don't wanna leave Mountain Home, I love Mountain Home, but I have to have a place that I can move, that I can handle. And in my mind, what I'm hearing, and this is just the way I'm hearing it, is that the people are wanting to dictate the kind of houses that other people might need. And I don't understand that. You all had a chance to buy your own houses and what you wanted and what satisfied you, but how can you say in another area that, no, you can't do that? No one ever told you you couldn't do what you wanted to do. And that bothers me a little bit, because we say we don't wanna be Boise. Why do we have to be Boise? With this going on, I don't understand how that makes us Boise. And this is purely what I'm feeling. And I think the more diversity we have in our town, the better. The more, the better. It enriches everybody. And I've lived a lot of different places, all over the world, as well as here. And I consider myself a pretty conservative person as far as the rights of people to have what they want. And it kind of bothers me a little bit, and I'm just being honest with everybody, that the biggest response that came from everybody here tonight was that a developer wanted to make money. That blew my mind. I'm sorry. Because it seems like that's maybe the bottom line. That really startled me. That really shocked me. Because maybe that's what's at the bottom. I don't know. I don't know. But I think I've got a lot of experience. I'm really getting old. And being in a lot of different places, believe me, it's the diversity that makes the richness.
A couple more questions. Number one, the build out on these, the diagram you gave us is a preliminary phased in program, phase 1 through 4. Is it the intent of the developer to develop the infrastructure by phase only? So that if I understand it correctly, in phase 1 there's 49 lots and there's essentially one small green space about the size of a larger lot. Other than that, the other places that are listed in phase 1, there's not that much green space, I guess what I'm saying. The second thing is that to get to those other areas where there is green space and where you're talking pathways, if you don't develop it initially for phase 1, which I understand that, but if you don't develop that out, then people can't use those. It's just a point of fact. You can't get from phase 1 up to the green space that's in the north end or the pathways on the north end, because you're just going to have a vacant field, or you're going to go up the street outside. Is that correct?
Yes, okay, so you're partially correct. So, I have a preliminary plat that includes I think the last page, I think there's a phasing diagram in the plat that you're looking at.
Yes.
So yes, you're right, we will start in the south end, so we would not extend pathways and infrastructure up to that park until, I think that's phase 2.
At least phase 2.
Yeah, it's not in the landscape plan rendering, it's just the plat, the preliminary plat.
both of those green spaces that are in phase one, both of them are on a corner.
Yeah, and they're, on phase one, I believe there's some storm drainage, so let's see if that's, I was thinking there was a phasing diagram
Yeah,
somewhere.
I have one I'm looking at.
There we go, yes, phase one, and you're right, they shows a few green spaces there along 10th. So we'll have some, and some of those are drainage, so some of those actually are gonna be landscape, but, I mean, like the grass.
They're kinda like here in town at 12th and Highway 30.
Where you
Or
have.
Highway 30, where
the
there's swells.
Swells,
Yeah.
yeah, so they have the swells. It looks like on phase two, and I was thinking we were building the park area, it looks like we're building that in phase three. So there'll be a few open spaces in 1 and 2, so these will be coming on like each year. So yes, some of the homes that might be built in phase one wouldn't have direct access to that park until phase, I can't see the lines.
Well, actually it gets up to phase 4,
Okay,
3
but
and
it's-
4 at best.
Yeah, well, 3, I'm sure we're doing it before we get to 4. 4, I think we're doing it in phase 3, so there would be, but the pathways would be built at each one that gets you from street to street. But that one open space, again, but as we build, 9th Street's gonna be open. I mean, we could actually make a commitment to put the pathway along 9th. I think we would be able to do that in phase 1. So you would have a nice asphalt 10-foot wide pathway along, not 9th, 10th Street, along 10th Street. So take that pathway and put that in phase 1, and that would give you a nice access to the green belt and then on to the park. So, and then the park was gonna be done, I think we have in there for phase 3. So phase 3, we'll have our park and we'll do the park improvements. And the last phase is just those houses along the north boundary. So why don't we do that and add in the DA that the 10th Street pathway will be built as part of phase 1. So that would make sure that we get some access to the recreation areas.
For those of us with bad eyes, could you hover over phase 1? I can't see what.
Yeah, you
which
might
is-
wanna draw the
Yeah, I
lines.
just.
Yeah, so, I wish it was dark, yeah, there we go. You can see kind
I
of
just
a little
have bad eyes.
dotted line, there we go.
Okay.
So see the little
Yeah.
railroad line?
Okay.
That's phase 1, and phase 2. And so we do those so that we can build out, like for the emergency services, we can't go a certain distance beyond, so where the streets cut off, kind of funny, we can't go more than 150 feet, or we'd have to build a temporary turnaround, so those phase lines are kind of chosen for that reason, and also the sewer extension, which is, so we live by the sewer extension, so that comes from the south, so we will be doing that. Oh, cool. So yes, you're right about looking at the green space per phase, but I think we can satisfy your opportunity to get to green space that's not our green space yet in phases 1 and 2 by putting in that pathway. It'll be in a 10-foot pathway and a 20-foot lot outside of the right of way. Can you write that down and get that in the DA for me?
Actually, real quick, does anybody have any more questions for any of Chief Moore or Marshall Reed?
I'm sure you have somebody here from the school district.
I do, well, maybe not for Public Works, I'm not sure. So, Mr. Chairman, there was some concerns about infrastructure, schools, hospitals, water, this is more for the city.
Hold on, time out, Mark.
Okay.
Do you have any more questions for them?
I don't, no.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, my questions for them were already asked. So, as far as the infrastructure, it came up a couple times, talking about, certainly the traffic concern came up and then the lot sizes, but, the schools, has that been looked at, has that been addressed as well as the hospital, the water, consumption or need? And then the other, I thought it was very interesting, I don't know if there's any facts based on this, but in fact, the citizen mentioned, it was a rumor, about some kind of hazardous waste area or something. Has there been an environmental study on that property? Ever?
I would have to go with the public works director, but if
I know.
he's the applicant, there has been one.
There has been, I believe many years ago, there were some tailings that were left on the property. Those have been since remediated, so you can actually see if you go and look at old maps, you'll see there was just a small little pile, and those actually have been removed, and, a company called MTI, Materials Testing Incorporated, now called Atlas, they, actually did all the testing, they even did like testing, and this is from my engineer, so I didn't review all of that, but the engineer tells me they went in and they actually did these soil tests with these, I don't know what you call spectrometers or something that you actually test for the materials that are in the soil, and they understand, they report to us that the site is clean. So, but yes, there were sometimes some mining tailings.
Do you know if that was
dumped.
mercury, you know what, any kind of contamination that might have been?
I do not know.
Okay.
I don't think it was mercury. I'm thinking maybe lead, but I'm not sure. I mean, don't hold me to that either, but I'm going to be guessing. And I can bring back more information about that if we continue to another date. So if you want more information about that, I can.
Thank you. So the schools, hospital, water, infrastructure, in general.
So Commissioner Sauerwald, for any public hearing, we have a list of political subdivisions that we notify no matter what. One, for example, is Elmore County Rec District, Central District Health, and also the school district. So they did receive notification of this. I can also tell you that 2 months ago or so, that I went and did a presentation directly to the school board, not only pertaining to this project, to this project, but all of the projects that we are anticipating that are coming. So we are definitely being very transparent with the growth that is coming. And I would hope that the same amount of people that come to this meeting go to a school board meeting as well, to ensure that they are doing what is needed in order to provide sufficient education infrastructure.
You didn't get anything back from the schools?
No, there's no comment.
And the city has no concern as far as water supply needs.
No, our public works director is here, so you can definitely verify with him. But it has been thoroughly reviewed by them, by our third-party engineering group, Keller Engineering, has reviewed it as well. So not only our people here, but also other certified engineers, and they found that our current infrastructure is sufficient for the development.
I don't have any further questions.
I got a question about these overflow ponds, or the swells we keep talking about. If you could point out maybe like the location when you decide to put those. I know if I was staying right next to one of those, it would make me very nervous to have my kid outside, or is it gonna be fenced? Is it gonna be cleaned? They tend to attract a lot of mosquitoes, which can also attract a lot of diseases.
You have ordinances that require any kind of development to maintain any kind of runoff, increase in runoff on your own property. So what these are stormwater detention basins, and so what they do is the water goes in there and is infiltrated, or there's a pipe outlet that controls the amount of water that goes out. So not on the phase, go up to the second or third page is an engineering drawing that actually shows some of those. The next one down, that one is an engineering drawing, so you can see as you, blow that up a little bit, you can see the drawings. They're filled up with water when it's raining, and within 24 hours the water has to dissipate and be released. So you don't want your kid out there in the middle of the rainstorm probably, but yes, they will have some water. They're gently sloping on the sides typically. You can see they're pretty good sized, but they are gently sloping on the sides. They're not anything you can't get out of. You're just walking down a slope about like this. So, and then they fill up with water when we have significant storms. So, and the way that they're supposed to be constructed, and the engineers would know this better, and Brock may know this, and Public Works knows this, is what kind of base they have on the bottom. Sometimes it's sand, sometimes it's grass, sometimes it's a special, I don't know the name, there's some initials for the type of grass that you can plant in the bottom that allows some of the water to dissipate into the sandy soil with black grass on top. So there are specific guidelines in your Public Works manuals about how those are to be built, but they are required to be built. Every subdivision
that you'll see typically has those, and again, most places, we like to put them underground, but we can't because of the rock here. You know, Mountain Home, I mean, Meridian, North Meridian's like that too. We have all surface ponds because they have high groundwater, so you have to have a separation between the groundwater at 5 feet and these infiltration basins. So, you know, we find this, Cuna's got lots of lava, so we end up doing surface ponds like this too. I don't have a lot to add. There might be some Public Works might want to say something about about those ponds, the specifics of those. I don't know. Yeah, if I said anything wrong or too much.
You were right on. So,
Okay.
Commission. So yeah, and that I'm trying to right. I mean, they're all over the place. I mean, there's a guideline that they have to follow. And when we were going through all the manuals that the engineers put together, they had everything that you have. It has to be like Jane said, it has to be in there. Can't stay there for longer than 24 hours for the dissipation. A lot of times, they have to fracture the rock, so they call that fracture the rock before they get everything built, so it's going to be able to go in there also.
Yeah, that's expensive.
Yeah, if it has to, so they have to test all that. They'll drill it to make sure what it's going to do. So, your question on water and wastewater, we can certainly serve it. That's everything's set up to do that. So,
that's the question now. With this amount of people coming in, will the surrounding community see any difference in pressure?
This is actually, a lot of this is will be in the middle, is in the medium pressure zone. So they actually have high pressure there. So they actually, all these places will probably, a lot of these places will have to have a pressure regulator on their house so they don't explode their toilets and explode their. So they definitely will have plenty of pressure.
And we loop, right?
Yes, and
all the water lines get looped, so that helps with the
Actually, this project actually helps with that, helps with our medium pressure zones to be able to add to what's going on up there, and so it'll help. And the same thing with the wastewater. So they're going to be able to connect into the last phase. We asked them to connect it into on the 6th because that's a main that bigger line that comes from that we've already upgraded. So to take some of that pressure off the 10th. So. Yep.
Thank goodness for people who understand that.
I was trying to think some other questions. I think those are the big ones. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Commission, I don't know about you, but there's a lot of information that was just thrown at us tonight. There's not going to be a decision made, I feel. I don't think we can make a motion based on everything. We need to come back to the drawing board and the table. That's my own personal thought on that, but I want to leave it up to you and what you feel as well.
Mr. Chairman, I know I'm not prepared to make a decision to move forward right at this moment. I do have a lot of questions, and some of the questions we don't have any information on, and I think it's probably available, but I'd like to know it before I.
Can we get with you, Brock, and get those questions answered, and possibly when we reconvene, maybe make them more open?
Yes, most definitely. I think a smart thing to do, obviously you went over some of the high points, and the audience also expressed there are certain components that need to be addressed. And I think Jane has those written down as well. I think some clarification with the traffic study is important. That's something that you're looking at, among many others. So staff can work with this body, work with the commission. We have all the letters that were sent in from people with all of their different concerns, to ensure that information that probably lacked during this meeting is available at the next one.
Okay. Perfect. Well then, with that, we need a motion to table it.
Yes, and because you're tabling this, they were doing their
Gentlemen, I'm gonna ask you if you can go out there, we still have to adjourn.
Hold your drum. I look at people, you know what I'm saying, I wanna actually see. Do you? The commercial shirts. Yeah, there's no commercial. Okay. So there's, because I'm trying to figure out what that's an increase. Okay. Okay.
That was just a table. Did I get everybody's,
Where would be like if I was to drive by and just go see, you know what I mean, just to see if this came through email.
So they don't see them. So I will find.
Okay.
Some examples.
No, of those